What is up, guys? It is me, Real American Politics, back again with a new video, and today we are looking at an interesting scenario of what if the 2008 recession never happened, and if the McCain campaign actually used Sarah Palin's appeal to the working class of this country. So, if you don't know, 2008 McCain got absolutely slapped from all directions. This was a landslide. Obama got 360 plus electoral votes. And it was not a pretty election, right? He got 365, McCain got 173. And he won the popular vote by 7. This was not a good election year for the Republicans, to say the least. But this was the intriguing fact. This should have been a lot worse than it was. States like Montana, Missouri in particular, that was the one state where it should have flipped. Places like Appalachia, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Arkansas, they swung heavy for McCain, or somewhat to McCain. And you know why that was? Well, put it simply, it was because of his VP candidate, and Sarah Palin. Her ability to appeal to the working class of this country, especially in Appalachia, saved McCain from getting wiped out. Now, if McCain's campaign decided to use her, right, to her fullest, this would have had a much bigger effect in places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, etc., etc. So you get the point, and you look at the swing map, and it's quite clear where McCain improved the most in. The working class part of the South, Appalachia, northern Alabama, even eastern Texas. It's a very working class part of the state, populous, blue-collar state. And really, it's because of Palin. You look at the polling, statewide in particular, a lot of these states, McCain surged in the polls. In Appalachian states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Iowa to an extent, Missouri, after he picked Palin. But for some odd reason, his campaign decided not to use her and decided to use Lieberman more. Go look that up. It's a mess. It's a failure that they only used Lieberman more than Palin. So the question is this. What would have happened if they actually used her, if the economy went into a recession, but not to the extent that it did? AKA, it didn't borderline collapse. So that's what I want to do today. So let us do the safe states. Let's be real here, guys. The West Coast is still safe. Hawaii is still safe. The Northeast is all still safe. Though the Northeast could get closer, I'm not even going to mess around with it. All of Maine would be safe, except Maine 2nd. And this is the safe Democrat states, right? Just the Northeast and the West Coast. For McCain, it would be Alaska, most of the West, the Dakotas, which were a battleground in 2008. Yeah, it would have been bad for McCain if he did not pick Palin. Most of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. I do believe Georgia would have been safe. South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the great state of West Virginia. So this was theoretically the battleground map either way, except with a couple other safe states, not including New Mexico. So these are the safe Republican and Democrat states. Already significantly better than our timeline. I mean, places like Dakota and the Dakotas would have been toss-ups. So that's how bad it was getting for McCain's campaign. But for now, this is the safe states. Now, we're going to do likely states and lean states and so forth. For the likely states, I do believe Montana, Indiana, and the state of North Carolina would have been all likely. Now, the reason I say North Carolina would have been likely, you look at the swing map, and oh my goodness, look at all that red. Red is Obama in this scenario. I'm using alternate colors because, well, that's what this website uses. But you look at the trend, which is different than swing, and you notice something interesting. The majority of the blue-collar working-class part of the state actually trended Republican. So, my opinion is, if it wasn't for the economic collapse, McCain would have won by 8 or 9 points. He would have done significantly worse in places like Mecklenburg, Wake County, all that stuff. But he would do a lot better in this part of the state. So he would have won it by a likely margin. I mean, Bush won it by a safe margin. People forget that he won by a safe margin. So my opinion is it would have been likely margin. Indiana, same deal. My opinion is that was a complete fluke. That was just a big fluke. Yes, it did trend heavy, heavy for Obama. A lot of those swings were because of, McCain did not appeal to working class America at all. And he did in particular worse somehow around Hamilton County where Indianapolis is. Don't know how you do that if you're John McCain, but he somehow did. I mostly do think that's because the economy, a lot of data was the economic factor did kill McCain's campaign essentially. But yes, so these are the three likely Republican states. There could be one you could make an argument for, but it's not going to be likely. For the Obama states, Nevada, New Mexico, Wisconsin, I do believe would have still been the likely state. It was safe in our timeline, but I do think it would have been likely. Michigan would have been likely. And I do believe Maine 2nd would have been likely. So they did swing heavy Republican this timeline, but McCain still wouldn't have won them, right? Instead of losing by 17, he would lose them by 9. So it's somewhat of an improvement, but not really. You can already tell this map is just cursed. Looking through our lens now, this may look like a disgusting map, but this is a possibility if you factor in the economic and Sarah Palin factor. Now we got the lean states. Nebraska 2nd, I do think would have been lead. So would have Missouri. Missouri, I mean, McCain still won the state of Missouri. He won it by around 4,000 votes. I do think he would have won it by 2-3%, maybe 4-ish. Especially with the blue-collar factor. I mean, the trend map, again, a lot of this is just because the St. Louis County, where it did swing heavy for Obama. But most of the state actually trended Republican, especially the blue-collar north and south. There's pretty much all of the states blue-collar. So I do believe it would have been lean. And for Obama, the lean states would have been Minnesota, Iowa, and the state of New Hampshire. Now, the reason I say these three states is simple. You look at the results in Iowa. Obama won it by around 9. You look at the trend map, and not the best for McCain. But I do believe the driftless area of both Wisconsin and Iowa would have swung more favorable to McCain in our timeline, but it still would have been a lean margin. Now, Minnesota is the one state where you look at the trend map. I mean, this is absurd that, he trended the entire state Republican. And realistically, the economy killed Minnesota for a while there. So I do believe that without the economic factor as big as it was in our timeline, I do think Minnesota would have trended Republican big time compared to our timeline. I mean, even look at the Hamilton area where Minneapolis is. It trended Republican. So that's my opinion on it. And a lot of the blue-collar north, like the Iron Range, would have swung more Republican, my opinion, especially with Sarah Palin. I mean, it did swing just barely Obama. So you can take that way you will, but I do believe a lot of the state would have trended Republican, especially with Palin. Palin was a big factor in a lot of this. So now we have the 4 states that will determine the election. Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania is a very intriguing case. I mean, the Philly area did trend Republican in our timeline, but the one part I'm more concerned about is the western half of the state. Look at Westmoreland, Washington County, etc. 2004, Kerry won these counties. But in our timeline, in 2008, McCain won them. And realistically, they threw Lieberman out there to campaign for him. That's absurd. His last couple of rallies had Lieberman in Pennsylvania instead of Palin. If it was a complete different story, I don't think the state would have went to Obama by 10 points. I do believe it would have went to Obama by a tilt margin. But realistically, the McCain campaign was as stupid as you can get. Why would you put Lieberman in Pennsylvania instead of Palin? And even then, they still trended a lot of the state Republican. So with Palin there, I do think that would have swung it compared to 2004 to a tilt margin. But it just, the ineptitude of the McCain campaign, just as a whole, was useless. So now we got Ohio. This is another interesting state. I do believe McCain would have won it. You look at the results from Ohio. Obama won only by 5. Again, most of the blue-collar part of the state trended Republican. And this is another state these idiots threw Lieberman out there. And again, the economic factor was bad in Ohio. So I do think that Obama would have still lost the state by around 0.3% or so. McCain would have won, I should say. So take that way you will, but that's my personal take. Maybe a stretch. The Pennsylvania's tilt in this scenario, so can't really say that's a stretch. Now we got Colorado. I do think either way Obama would have won it. I mean, you look at the trends, it's just not. I mean, you got the Denver suburbs. I just personally think they trended too much towards the Democrats in this timeline for McCain to make up for it. But it wouldn't be a 9-point loss for McCain. It wouldn't have been like that. It would have been closer to around 1, maybe 1.5. So borderline lean. I might as well just put a lean there. So yes, you could tell that this map is already reversed compared to what it was in 2008. Now we got Virginia. It's another state where I do think McCain would have lost by a tilt margin. I mean, you just look at Nova. Places like Loudoun County, Prince William County, Fairfax, Alexandria, Arlington. I mean, outside Arlington, it all trended heavy for Obama. And with the black turnout being incredibly high in Virginia, either way I don't think would have changed. Though, again, with a lot of Appalachian would have trended Republican, I just don't think it was enough to win the state of Virginia. Now we got Florida. This is the one state McCain should have won either way. I mean, you look at Florida. Most of the state trended Republican. Even mostly the Panhandle, but places like Palm Beach, Broward, Monroe, they trended heavy towards the Republicans. The only place that really didn't was Osceola County. So realistically, I don't understand how McCain lost the state. So I do think either way McCain would have won it. I mean, you just throw in Palin, extra economic boost, and that's it. McCain would have won the state. And this would have been the map if the economy wasn't so bad, and if McCain actually used Palin, instead of just throw her in the middle of nowhere and use Lieberman as his main campaigner. So yes, this is a very different map than we saw on our timeline. I mean, this was a map we got on our timeline. Disgusting. Now we got this. So Ohio, North Carolina, Florida would be the three main flips, and Indiana and Nebraska second. They would have been the main flips. And a lot of states like Virginia, Pennsylvania, Colorado, etc. They would be like the next pure battleground states in the future. But yes, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, hit the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, and yes, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.